The path to hell is paved with good intentions.
What if your need to be good is the very thing destroying you? What if the angel inside you is suffocating under the weight of its own wings? We often admire those who are selfless, kind, compassionate, always giving, always pleasing, always forgiving. But here's a dangerous question. What happens when your goodness is a mask? When your empathy becomes a prison? When your kindness is a survival strategy? Since childhood, you were probably told to be good. Be a good boy. Be a nice girl. Don't be difficult. Don't make others uncomfortable. So you smiled when you wanted to scream. You said yes when every fiber of your body wanted to say no. You shrank yourself to keep others safe. And over time, you became a ghost. A well-behaved shadow. A performance of virtue. You wore your goodness like armor. But the armor became your cage. Because deep inside, something was rotting. Not evil. Not madness. But rage. Pain. A desperate hunger to finally be real. Carl Jung warned us. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. The people who shine the brightest, who seem the most pure, often carry a darkness they are terrified to face. Not because they are bad, but because they have repressed too much. And what is repressed does not disappear. It grows claws in the dark. It waits. And when the angel inside you is exhausted, broken, betrayed, the demon appears. Not to destroy you, but to balance you. This isn't a story about being evil. It's about becoming whole. Because the more you try to be good in order to be loved, the more you abandon the very parts of you that need the most love. Goodness isn't just a moral ideal. It lives in the nervous system. Every time you suppressed your anger to avoid being difficult, your body remembered. Every time you forgave someone who didn't deserve it, your muscles tightened. Every time you swallowed your truth just to keep peace, your breath became shallow. Over years, your body becomes the graveyard of unspoken truths. You start to feel tired, not from life, but from pretending. You carry tension in your neck, your jaw, your chest. You feel anxiety, not because you're anxious, but because your soul is screaming through your biology. And this is where the demon begins to grow. In the silence. In the stuckness. In the disease of self-abandonment. The body, as Gabor Mate says, is not just a vehicle. It's a storyteller. When your story has no voice, it finds other ways to be heard. Illness, fatigue, anxiety, these are not your enemies. They are messengers, calling you back to the parts of yourself you abandoned to be good. Psychologically, something haunting happens to the good person. They begin to split. One part becomes hypermoral, self-sacrificing, always striving to meet external standards. This is the persona, the face we show the world. The other part, the one who feels resentment, desire, rage, gets buried in the shadow. And like all things buried, it begins to ferment. You might smile at others, and secretly resent them. You might give endlessly, but feel unseen, unappreciated. You tell yourself, I'm a good person. I'm doing the right thing. But your inner child is crying. Because you're not doing the right thing for you. You're doing what gets you validation, approval, love, safety. And in doing so, you trade authenticity for acceptance. Jung warned us that when we over-identify with the light, the shadow grows stronger in the dark. This is the danger of being too good. You become a stranger to yourself. And eventually, that buried self demands to be seen. Sometimes through depression. Sometimes through addiction. Sometimes through an emotional breakdown that everyone calls crazy. But it's not crazy. It's a rebellion. Your shadow is rebelling against a lifetime of spiritual repression. Throughout history, spiritual traditions have warned us. Too much attachment to being good becomes a spiritual ego. Nietzsche said, beware, lest in your fight with monsters, you yourself become a monster. But few remember the second part of his quote. And if you gaze too long into an abyss, the abyss gazes back into you. When your life becomes a crusade for purity, to save, to help, to fix others. You risk losing yourself in the very darkness you wish to eliminate. Buddhism calls this the attachment to virtue. Christian mysticism warns of pride disguised as humility. Taoism reminds us that the more we chase the light, the more we cast a long shadow behind us. Because the truth is, you are not just light. You are also fire. You are also chaos. You are also desire, boundary, defiance, and hunger. When you deny these parts for too long, they do not disappear. They become distorted. The angel becomes resentful. The saint becomes bitter. The empath becomes manipulative. The helper becomes controlling. Not out of malice, but because they've never been taught how to integrate their shadow. Spirituality without shadow work becomes performance. Goodness without self-awareness becomes poison. And that is when angels turn into demons. Not because they are evil, but because their wings were built from wounds and never healed. When goodness collapses, there comes a moment when the mask of goodness begins to crack. Maybe it's after a betrayal, when you realize being kind didn't protect you. Maybe it's burnout, when giving endlessly leaves you empty. Maybe it's a slow, gnawing resentment, a whisper in the dark that says, "I'm tired of being good. I want to be real." This moment feels terrifying, because it feels like you're becoming someone else, like you're losing your identity. But here's the paradox. You're not becoming someone else. You're returning to who you were, before the world told you to be good. True transformation begins not with self-improvement, but with self-honesty. You stop trying to fix yourself, and start listening to yourself. You begin to question, who am I when I stop performing goodness? What boundaries have I never set? What truths have I swallowed for approval? What parts of me have I labeled as bad just to survive? This is the fire of transformation. Not to destroy who you are, but to burn away who you are not. Healing doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming whole. You don't kill the shadow. You sit with it. You listen to it. You learn its language. You ask your anger, what are you protecting me from? You ask your envy, what is the unlived life you're pointing me toward? You ask your resentment, what boundary did I never have the courage to set? You don't moralize these parts. You don't shame them. You integrate them. This is Jungian individuation. The sacred process of becoming whole, not holy. It is not a straight path. You will regress. You will get scared. You will want to return to the safety of your old identity. But each time you choose truth over performance, boundary over sacrifice, authenticity over approval, you reclaim another piece of your soul. The demon doesn't die. It transforms. It becomes a guardian, a fierce protector of your truth. A force that once hurt you, now helps you speak, live, and love with integrity. There is a kind of power that comes after the fall. Not the power to dominate, but the power to be real. You are no longer enslaved by the need to be liked. You are no longer addicted to being needed. You no longer mistake people-pleasing for love. You no longer confuse silence for peace. You walk with dignity, not because you're flawless, but because you've met your darkness and made it part of your light. You've become dangerous. Not in a destructive way, but in a way that says, I know who I am. I know what I feel. And I will not abandon myself to make you comfortable. This kind of presence cannot be faked. It cannot be taught. It must be lived, earned, embodied. This is the alchemy of shadow work. The saint who knows rage. The empath who holds boundaries. The helper who speaks truth. The light that holds darkness, without fear. There is a place beyond the binary. Beyond good. Beyond bad. Beyond sinner. Beyond saint. It is the place where your full humanity is welcomed. Where every part of you, wounded, wise, wild, has a seat at the table. This is the sacred temple of integration. You don't need to overcome your shadow. You need to hold it. You need to honor the parts that once only knew how to survive. you begin to understand. Your rage was a cry for dignity. Your jealousy, a signal of your buried desires. Your people-pleasing, an ancient survival tactic. And slowly, the war within you ends. Not because one side wins, but because you no longer fight against yourself. Every spiritual tradition whispers the same truth beneath its rituals. Your wound is not a punishment. It is your initiation. The desert fathers, the Zen monks, the Sufi poets, all knew. The path to God passes through your inner hell. The alchemists called it nigredo, the blackening. The breaking apart before the coming together. The night before the resurrection. And this is the paradox. The more you allow yourself to descend, the more whole you become. The parts of you you once feared become your teachers. Your darkness becomes your compass. Your demons become your guides. This is not the blinding light of perfection. It is the quiet radiance of integrity. You no longer have to hide. You no longer have to pretend. You are no longer split between who you are and who you perform to be. You've become someone dangerous to the systems of control. Because you're no longer manipulated by guilt. You've become unpredictable to those who exploit your goodness. Because your yes now has the power of a sacred no. And above all, you've become trustworthy. To yourself. This is the light that holds shadow. This is the peace that doesn't depend on being liked. This is the love that doesn't require losing yourself. So here you are. Not fixed. Not flawless. But finally, real. You've walked through the fire. You've embraced the demon. You've redefined what it means to be good. Now the question remains. What will you do with the version of you that no longer needs to perform? Will you keep living behind the mask of kindness? Or will you speak the truth even if your voice shakes? Will you abandon yourself for comfort? Or will you walk, eyes open, soul intact, into the life that is calling you? Remember, when angels fall, they don't disappear. They become something else. Something raw. Something fierce. Something free. The ones who rise are not those who deny their shadow, but those who befriend it. Welcome home.